let me try to make sense of this. What we did for almost 40 years is say that a saturated diet of animal proteins or any saturated fat was the leading cause of heart disease, especially as it would drive up your cholesterol. So if you had an elevated cholesterol and had a high-fat diet, you were at risk of heart disease. That was what we all were raised to believe, including nutritionists. I'm a registered dietitian. I have a PhD in nutrition. All the textbooks taught me that. The trouble is it wasn't true, and I began to see this. In fact, to the contrary, one of the early advocates of a low-fat diet was Nathan Pritikin. He died. And a lot of the people that he counseled who were on his programs went to his low-fat centers, would later come to me because I saw that they were suffering from multiple nutritional deficiencies, especially the omega-3 fatty acids. And then when you would go up to the Outer Banks of Canada and look at some of the native population that were living on a high-fat diet, they didn't have heart disease as we know it. So what this special is telling us is that we were lied to. But how were we lied to? Let me tell you what really causes heart disease, all right? First, it's not just cholesterol, it's the LDL cholesterol. That's the dangerous cholesterol. Why? Because it can penetrate the endothelial walls and contribute to the increase in foam, FOAM cells, which form the core of the plaque deposit. So oxidation of the cholesterol is dangerous, and that's when it's been exposed to free radicals. When the endothelium also triggers an inflammatory process, which they didn't even discuss in this program. They didn't even mention the endothelium. And that's the problem, except that, well, it's damaged in some way. Yeah, what damages it? Anything that's pro-inflammatory. So, what is pro-inflammatory that could cause the damage to our arteries to begin with? Well, here are the real culprits. The real culprits are fried foods. Doesn't matter what you fry them in. Unsaturated or saturated fat, the frying itself, the high cooking temperatures of meat. So that is a big problem. And so it is the cooking process and the chemicals like heterocyclic amines or with carbohydrates, acrylamides, that cause the problem. The high sugar, refined sugar, processed fructose, the high fructose is a direct contributing factor to epithelial destruction and oxidation of our cholesterol. So every time you drink a soft drink, but you stay away from saturated fats, thinking you're protecting your cholesterol and your heart, you're doing just the opposite. You're damaging the heart and the vessels of the heart. Next, you have any form of pesticide or any of the chemicals that normally go into our system. Then stress. One of the doctors mentioned stress. You bet stress is a major killer, especially distress, where we're chronically adapting to a stress in our life and not changing it. Then our high blood pressure, hypertension. High blood pressure is known to aggravate endothelial dysfunction, and we have seen study after study that the endothelium is an end organ for damage caused by high blood pressure. Elevated C-reactive protein. They didn't mention the hormones like C-reactive protein. So inflammation is central to the endothelial dysfunction that underlies vascular disease. When you drink coffee, when you drink soft drinks, when you drink alcohol, when you're breathing polluted air, that creates elevated C-reactive protein, and studies have shown that the higher levels of C-reactive protein are associated with an increased risk of stroke, heart attack, and peripheral vascular disease. Then you have elevated LP-PLA2. Like C-reactive protein, LP-PLA2 is a marker of inflammation, and it's very specific for vascular inflammation. And then you have elevated the bad omega-6 fatty acids, like corn oil, peanut oil, those oils, versus the good oils. Because, once again, when you're on a low-fat diet, you're not going to be taking in the good oils. Avocado oil, good. And the best oil of all, coconut oil. So we've had our ratios wrong. Now, also elevated fibrinogen, F-I-B-R-I-N-O-G-E-N, fibrinogen. So when a blood clot forms, fibrinogen is converted to fibrin, which forms the structural matrix of a blood clot. So fibrinogen also facilitates platelet adherence to epithelial cells, that clumping together. So when you have an elevated fibrinogen, you're twice as likely to die of a heart attack or stroke. Insufficient vitamin D. Vitamin D protects your vascular system. including reducing chronic inflammation, and also insufficient vitamin K. Why? Because vitamin K is essential in regulating proteins in the body that direct calcium to the bones and keep it out of your arterial walls. And low testosterone and excess estrogen. Well, how in the world do you get low testosterone and excess estrogen? Well, excess estrogen when you eat a meat-based diet, high meat-based diets, and stress and you're overweight. That gives you extra estrogen, and excess estrogen is linked to higher C-reactive protein intake and blood clots and causing a sudden heart attack. Also, when you don't have sufficient coenzyme Q10. Coenzyme Q10, if every American took 300 milligrams a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one in the evening, I'll bet you could drop our heart attack rate by 50%. Also, nitric oxide deficit. Nitric, N-I-T-R-I-C, oxide, O-X-I-D-E, is an important messenger molecule required for healthy cardiovascular function. Nitric oxide enables blood vessels to expand and contract with youthful elasticity and is vital to maintaining structural integrity of the endothelium, such as protecting the vascular disease from vascular disease. So how do you get nitric oxide? Well, how about having a glass of beet juice before you work out? So those are some of the important things. Now, on tomorrow's program, I'm going to tell you about the good oils. I'm going to give you a whole lot of information about coconut oil containing a unique combination of fatty acids with powerful medicinal properties that can help you prevent heart disease. So let's get over the myth that a low-fat diet and and high cholesterol are the things we should focus on. We should be looking at the right information. All right? I'm Gary Null. We're out of time. Thank you all for listening, and I'll look forward to sharing more on tomorrow's program.